Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, inspiring journalists, writers, readers and nature lovers to embrace creativity and nature connection for positive well-being. I'm your host, Anna Williscroft. Join me for honest conversations with people who use writing, journaling and time in nature to find clarity, process life's experiences and live a more fulfilling life. Whether you're a seasoned writer, a curious beginner, or simply someone seeking a deeper connection to life, this podcast is for you. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Hello and welcome to a solo chatting episode of the Writing with Purpose podcast. This is the bit of the podcast where it's just me, a cup of something warm, and whatever's been on my mind lately. I'm with you solo today for a couple of reasons. The first is there's a summer break coming up where the podcast is going to pause until mid-September. I go on holiday next week anyway, so I'm not going to be around. And also, I wanted to share some of the content from July's journaling circles and what Writerly events are coming up for August, but more on that later. Today, I want to talk about rest and restoration, but specifically why so many of us can have a full weekend off and still feel pretty flat by Monday morning. So if this sounds familiar, stay with me because I think that the answer is about choosing rest and restoration that's right for you. And that's not the same thing for everybody. And also rest and restoration aren't quite the same thing. And once you understand the difference, it's not going to be easy, but you might appreciate that you'll find different things to do to get your rest and to get your restoration. So I'm probably right in thinking that most of us picture rest as something still or quiet. So maybe a lie-in, an afternoon on the sofa, perhaps an early night, maybe binge watching the TV, not necessarily having to think about something, snuggling on the sofa, reading a book. And for some people, that's exactly what works for them to feel restored and rested again. But for others, rest might look completely different. That might be getting outside in nature, going on a really long walk somewhere. It might be going to explore a new city. It might even be a HIIT training activity at the gym or a Pilates session, for example. So neither of these versions of rest are better than the other. There's no single right way to rest, and even though, probably a lot of wellness content online might sound as though that's where it is, relax, chill, don't do anything. But I do actually think that there's a distinction between rest and restoration. And this is something that we've been discussing in July's journaling circles. And it's this: rest is the pause. So with rest, you stop doing something, whatever that might be. It might be work. It might be just something that you need to give your brain or your body a break from. Whereas restoration is what that pause, that stopping doing something will give back to us. It's the replenishing part of what gives it back to us. So let me give a little bit of context here. You might actually have a rest. You might have a night's sleep, 8 hours. You wake up in the morning, you're technically rested because you've had a night's sleep, but you don't feel restored. And, you're still carrying that same level of tiredness, that kind of grogginess that you actually went to bed with. And I'm having a lot of that at the moment. We've had pretty much a 2 months probably worth of a heat wave here in England. My perimenopausal body keeps getting hot and cold and feels tired all the time. The stuff going on internally that I'm not necessarily used to. But anyway, all of that is for another episode. But I'm trying to explain this gap between rest and feeling restored. And that's usually the reason why maybe a full weekend off doesn't necessarily fix how you feel on Monday, and the fact that you might feel better on Monday after a full weekend off if you're not having that restoration part from that rest. So there's no universal formula for closing this gap. And this is really what today's episode is all about. What restores you might drain somebody else completely. And the only reliable way to find your own answer is to get curious about that. And of course, journaling, one of my loves, writing, rather than copying somebody else's version of that good day of rest. If you've seen it on an Instagram reel, for example, or TikTok, it's about you putting pen to paper and writing about what you feel and what you find restful and what restores you. So I've got some journaling prompts for you to find a little bit later. But I've kept coming back to this topic. So yes, it was the theme for the journaling circles. I've also written an article about it for Brains magazine. And I used the theme for my monthly contribution to the local Staffordshire Signal magazine. And I think when we're quite high achieving people, we have a lot on, we can manage a lot. We can manage a career, household, parents of teenagers, young children, maybe a sandwich generation where you're looking after adults as well. But you're carrying a lot around, in your head, and that gets in your head, and that also is very physical. So we actually need rest and restoration. So here's some statistics for you. So recent figures in the UK, 1 in 6 adults experience symptoms of a common mental health problem, things like anxiety or low mood, every week or in a single week. And a Mental Health UK 2025 burnout report, which surveyed over 4,000 UK adults, found that a third of those people experienced high or extreme stress always or often over the past year. And 9 in 10 experienced it at some point, and 1 in 5 needed time off work because of it. So these stats, they're not made up. They are a kind of snapshot of reality. It shows that we need that rest and that restoration. So if you're managing everything, then you're managing for sure. But if you still feel exhausted after a rest day, then it's not the fact that you're doing it wrong. You're probably following the advice that we're given, which is to switch off, to do less. And that isn't necessarily, enough for you to work with. What you need is something that's a bit more personal on that. So that's where journaling comes in, because you can tap into your inner self and just do a little bit of work around what it is that, what rest do you want? What does it mean to you? So one exercise that I've been introducing into July circles, the articles that I've written, some of the social media posts that I've shared. And it's a great exercise to try. And it's something that you don't necessarily have to do once. In fact, I recommend that you don't do it once. It's probably something that you could have a look at the end of every month, or at least do it quarterly. But I call it the energy audit. And we have had some really interesting insights from the circles about this. People have kind of realized what real proper restoration means to them. So take a blank page in your journal, or listen to this and then do the activity after the podcast is finished. Take a blank page in your journal and draw a line straight down the centre. And on one side, write drains, and on one side, write restores, or whatever language feels right to you as far as something that's energy draining or something that's energy restoring. In one of my circles, I used energy boosts to begin with, and the word boost just didn't resonate with one of my participants until I mentioned restores, and then she was well away with her writing. So choose whatever language works for you. Drains, restores is what I would suggest to start with. And then just start listing. So whatever comes to mind on either side of your line down the centre. So don't overthink it. The same thing can be on both sides. It's okay if you repeat some of the words. That just means it's probably something that's more important to you, or maybe more frustrating to you. So these things that drain and restore your energy, they aren't just activities. Okay, they can be people, places, environments, maybe even objects sitting in your peripheral vision. Now, I'm looking at my desk at the moment and there's quite a bit of stuff on it, and quite often a cluttered desk or a cluttered house for me drains me. Cluttered space, cluttered mind, as you might have heard. So, that kind of thing can actually drain you as much as maybe having a difficult conversation, or being in conflict somewhere, or, getting stuck in traffic and being late for an appointment. Just as much as, on the flip side, that a 5-minute conversation call with the right person can restore you as much as a full night's sleep. So pause if you're listening to this, write some notes on that page. It can be single words, it can be bullet points, it can be a little bit more of a sentence, whatever you feel drawn to write. There's no right or wrong with any of this. Pop your date at the top of the page so that you can make a record of when you wrote this down. Pause it, do the exercise, come back when you're finished, or listen to everything and have a go when you're finished listening. So Once you feel as though you've exhausted both lists, and you time yourself for 5 minutes if you want to, or just keep going until you feel as though there's nothing left, and ask yourself 2 questions when you have a look back at your list. So question number 1, what on your drains list have you more control over than you've been assuming? So what's on there that you do have some control over? And number 2, what's on your restores list that you've been neglecting, or perhaps telling yourself that you don't have time for? Now, it's this second question that's usually the more uncomfortable one, because we actually realise that it's something important to us, and should we really be putting it off anymore? So stay with that. Again, write in that reflective presence, what do these lists mean to you, and answer those questions. So 2 more prompts for you, ways to kind of lead you in to this when you've got some more time with your journal, if you want to revisit this at another time. So the first is what I call a rest sprint, and it's a take on a free writing sprint, like a warm-up write. So set a timer for 5 minutes for this one, or 3 minutes, or whatever you feel is comfortable for you, and write freely on one of these following prompts, or both, whichever you feel called to. So number 1, where in your body do you feel tiredness first? And what usually shifts that tiredness? And number 2, when did you last feel fully rested? Even if it was just for a tiny moment, even if it was just briefly. And what was different about that moment? So as with any form of journaling, that you don't have to have a structure. There's no editing required. There's no grammar or spelling police. Just get whatever down before the 5 minutes is up. And I also want to suggest that you give yourself a permission sentence. Complete as many times as you need to. And the sentence is, a form of rest I keep putting off is. A form of rest I keep putting off is. Now, with this type of exercise, this kind of journaling exercise, this sentence stem, many people are surprised by what surfaces. And it's not usually a lack of time, which is a real obstacle. We can all say we're too busy, we haven't got time for this. But quite often it's the belief around that particular type of rest, and that it doesn't count, or it's not allowed, or you've not earned it yet, or you need to finish X, Y, Z before you can do that. And, it's this belief that rest has to be earned, this restoration has to be earned. And it's one of the biggest blocks that I often see in different forms, actually. But we're going to stick with, this kind of giving yourself permission to rest. It's one of the biggest things that I see in my circles, and the questions that I have on what surfaces during the journaling. And this, we have to-do lists. To-do lists never actually end, do they? I've got probably about 3 different to-do lists down here in front of me. And as I tick a couple of things off during the day, I add another 3 things to it. So, and they might be ideas, they might actually be things to do. But, it's never ending. So for you to say, I'm just going to finish this, or I'll get over this, and then I will have some rest, there's always something that's going to get in the way. So if you're waiting for permission, it's not going to come. Whereas what I'm going to suggest is you write on that page, because with your writing, this kind of permission, this kind of, I need to do this before this, the grip of that loosens when you write on the page. And quite often you can write through it, or you can write past it. And this is the point where you can prioritize, you can delete, you can change what you have on that list, and be flexible with those beliefs. Maybe build in some new beliefs and change those old beliefs that are no longer working for you. And then build in some sufficient rest and restoration time. So if you take only one thing from today's solo chatting podcast, then please let it be this: that rest and restoration are not the same thing. And there's no version of rest that you're supposed to be doing. No one thing that's right. It's what works for you. And this is what I always say about journaling. It's about finding techniques and it's about finding things that work for you, and being able to rest and restore your body and your mind is no different. So start with the energy audit. 1 page, 2 columns, no pressure to get anything right or to get anything specific out there, and just let the page tell you or show you what restores you rather than just keeping it up here and having to think about it. I hope that was helpful. Now, before I go, I want to share what's happening this month because there's quite a lot on in August. Now, if identity and authenticity feels like a theme that you want to explore, our identity, our authentic selves, what we truly want from life, our purpose, then that's the focus of this month's journaling circles. So if you're local to me, which is Staffordshire and Cheshire, I've got in-person journaling circles, 1st of August at Hub and Health in Alsager, which is a Friday, and the 28th of August at the Nantwich Clinic, which is in Nantwich. And speaking of rest, there's a lovely retreat that I've teamed up with the wonderful Claudia Brown, a yoga expert, and she and I are running a slow morning sanctuary on Saturday, the 15th of August at the Nantwich Clinic. It's going to be for 3 hours. There's yoga, there's breath work, meditation, guided journaling, and these 3 hours are going to properly settle your nervous system rather than you just having to take a break from it. It's going to be relaxing. You're going to come out with some clarity, some confidence. Your mind, your body, your soul is going to feel super, super refreshed, restored and relaxed. So if you're local, Staffordshire, Cheshire, Shropshire, please do join us. It includes refreshments, snacks, Q&A time. We'll provide all of the equipment. For £49, you can start your weekend and feel super relaxed and refreshed and enjoy a full weekend, and then be raring to go on the Monday rather than feeling low potentially still after having a rest but not being fully restored. If you'd rather be outdoors, I'm running another nature journaling walk at Roadheath Rise on Friday the 27th of August at 10 a.m. We'll use the John Murlaw's framework, which I've mentioned before. So I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, and we use this technique to slow down and be present, to pay attention to what exactly is around us. Again, no experience necessary. Everything's provided. So you could turn up empty-handed, or you can bring your own pen and your own journal, whatever you feel is right for you. If you're not local and you've enjoyed today's episode, you gain benefits from listening to the podcast and the episodes that I have conversations with people. I've now put the journaling circles online. So the next ones are Wednesday, the 19th of August. There's a morning session at 9 a.m. There's an evening session at 5 p.m. It's the same content, so just giving you a choice for a morning or an afternoon, whichever suits your day better. So that's British summertime and it's held on Zoom. And if you're completely new to journaling, or you've tried it before and didn't stick to it, but still keep having something that's kind of telling you or suggesting to you, giving you a little nudge, journaling, there's something in this. I'm running an introduction to journaling on Monday, the 7th of September at 9 a.m. This is online via Zoom for 2 hours. We'll go through 4 different techniques. I will share how to start a practice, a gentle practice, things to think about, different ways people journal. And you'll gain enough confidence to open that blank page without freezing. If you can't make those times, there's a replay available. And if you're not ready to book anything yet, that's absolutely fine. You can grab my free journal planner and entrance meditation. Or if you want to go a little bit deeper, I've got a short on-demand course with 6 modules. That's Find Your Voice Again for less than £10, and it'll walk you through journaling step by step. So wherever you want to start, here are 2 more prompts to finish with. Number 1, what does living authentically look like for you this month? And that can be in the smallest, most practical sense. And number 2, the self I keep to myself is, and finish that sentence as many times as you feel called to, and see what shows up. And then reflect on what you've written and go a little bit deeper. Okay, so one more short thing before I go. As I mentioned, I'm taking a summer break from the podcast for the next few weeks. So this is the last episode for around about 5 or 6 weeks, but I want you to leave leave you with something to look forward to for when the podcast comes back, which is going to be the 12th of September. So in that podcast, I'm joined by Rachel Woods. Rachel is an executive coach and coaching supervisor whose work happens almost entirely outdoors. Now, after 16 years in a senior HR role across global organizations, Rachel left corporate life in 2020 to take coaching into the natural environment. She holds a master's in coaching and behavioral change. She sits on the editorial board of the Journal of Eco Psychology and is a TEDx speaker. She's also just published a book, which we're going to be talking about, and that's called Let's Take This Outside, The Business of Thinking in Nature. And it's a field guide for anybody who wants to use the outdoors as a space for clearer thinking and better decisions. So it's going to be a properly good conversation. I can't wait to share that one with you. After Rachel, I'm speaking to Ian Boyd, CEO of the outdoor coaching charity Mind Over Mountains, and his episode is followed by Ellie Reynolds, who's a scientist, a teacher, a triathlete, a bikepacker, an ocean rower and an author. And Ellie is part of the fastest British female crew to complete the Atlantic crossing. So exhilarating times there, and it was such a joy to chat to her. So until then, whatever you are doing with your August, I hope it genuinely restores you. So take care, and I'll see you again on the 12th of September.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.